مساكم الله بالخير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the really interesting topic in Kuwait is to bring someone to talk about the development plan of the country. Well, I can hear some chuckles in there. Why? People sometimes they don't believe in what the government says. And how about bringing a government official to talk about something they want to see? They want to live, and everybody is worried about what will be next in the country. I'm a citizen before being in any leading position in the country. And more important in my role of life is to be a father. Oh, this is really a hectic job, believe me. And anyone is a father here, he understands what I mean by being a father. And worse, to be a mother, but I'm not. My story starts with my little Maryam. She is in one of Kuwait prominent school, ASK. Anyone from the ASK here? Oh, there are some. She is from ASK, she is in the 4th grade. Last Thursday, I had the chance to go to what they call the parent conference. We go there and listen to their teachers and what we are expecting. And I came to one interesting board with every student in the class writing their hopes, their dreams. And I went to my daughters. I want to know what's her hopes and dreams in life. And it got my attention, a very interesting statement that she wrote here. She said, when I grow up, I want to carry out a family business. That's quite advanced, isn't it, for a 4th-year-old, right? A 4th graders, isn't it? So she is being taken the flavor of running a business. Interestingly, my job is to draft a plan to ensure this is happening in the future. Every single one of our next generation and the generation after will have their own business to run. I don't want them to work for the government. I want them to work for what? For the private sector, to have their own business. They will not be a burden on the government anymore. That's the issue. Then I start thinking more and more. This is a very bad job, by the way, in Kuwait, to be in a planning position. Because people sometimes they mix planning with execution, with implementation, with everything, and they blame you on everything. They go on the road and they say, no, we have this problem because there is no planning. They go to the beaches, getting all the garbages from there, they said, because there is no planning, there is no environmental planning. By the way, we have one of the largest tire graveyards in Earth. That's quite something. We have problem with the waste management in the country. You can feel your traffic problem, congestion. I have the honor to get my kids daily to the school, get stuck on the road. If you leave house 1 minute, you'll get stuck on the road for a long time. And believe me, you will look at the other cars and you say, it's the behavior or it's the road. But at the end of the day, you will blame what? No planning. The whole story starts from understanding the history of Kuwait, to understand where we've been before and how did we live. The life in Kuwait, actually right now, it gives me a feeling as a citizen of losing hope. I heard many of my friends want to immigrate from one of the richest countries in the world, going to a country which is maybe less than their GDP. for a reason or another, people start to be depressed. Depression is not good. The morale is going down. Losing hope, it's not a feeling that you want to have in this country. Basically, the whole plan is based on creating a happy citizen, living a sustainable life. That's the whole idea of having a proper plan in the country. If I ask someone here in the room and they said, you know what, do you trust the government to do it? He said, no, come on. Then I asked him, where do you work for? He said, I work for the government. Hello? You work for the government and you are complaining from the government. 350,000 people work for the government out of the 1 million Kuwaitis. Believe it or not. And they all complain of what the government is doing. So who's the government then? It is you who are living in the country. And if you want to go and talk to the private sector, they said there is no such thing called private sector in the country. Well, there's a truth in this statement. We'll elaborate on this one. Let's get me into how the Kuwaitis live and their history prior to the first barrel of oil produced. We used to live in a very sustainable economy, though small. The GDP, it was very little. But it was a sustainable economy. Why? The government was small. The government is doing nothing but except ensuring security, collecting tax, ensuring social network in the country. Most of the economic activities were done by the private sector, either by the professionals, we call them now a very nice fancy name, professionals, meaning you will see the barber, you will see the ironsmith, you will see the tailors, you will see the farmer. So all of these are now the doctors, the professionals. Also, there were the financier. And interestingly, we used to call them Tawash. That's the financier, the one who provides the fund. For whom? For the merchants, for the traders. The country was a place for trading because it's connecting the east to the west. Interestingly, the sea ships coming from India, incidentally, many of our grandfathers used to work in India. And this is why we appreciate the Indian population here in the country. So this is life. Let's give us some historical lessons. They take whatever goods there from India, South Africa, the east border of Africa, and they come back to Kuwait. Then they download all of these very interesting goods, put them on a camel's caravan, heading to Sham, to Damascus. And during summertime, they send their kids to fish for barrels. Is this barrel for their wives or daughters? No. These barrels were sold in Europe. It's a 24/7 economy. It's very sustainable, but it was very hard until the discovery of the oil. One of the largest reserves of oil. That was really interesting. They call it the wealth curse. The wealth curse gets us into what we call the petrodollars. So the most important two institutions in the country is the KPC, the Kuwait Petroleum Corporation, and KIA, the Kuwait Investment Authority. At that time, in the 50s, it was the first sovereign fund. It was the savior of Kuwait, by the way. At that time, they thought about the future. Saving these petrodollars and investing outside of the country. putting them at what we call the Future Generation Fund. And the rest of the money, it was wealth distribution mechanics. The wealth distribution mechanics took so many different forms. Too much investment on the infrastructure, on the human capitals, on the roads, on the hospital, and the country was growing. However, the principle is wealth distribution. That gets us into a problem. We start to understand the Constitution in a different way. They said the Constitution forced the government to employ more people in the government. Actually, it's not that. It is the job of the government to create jobs. That gets me into the vision. Many of us, when I said, what is the vision of Kuwait, they will start saying, yeah, it's to be an international financial commercial hub. Well, this is a very broad statement. Everybody talk about it. And I see many arguments, well, can be done or not to be done. Well, it's called vision. You cannot set a vision that you can do in 2 or 3 or 4 years or maybe 6, 7 years. It's a very long-term vision. Kuwait's strategic position allows you to be a hub, is to connect the east to the west. All the ingredients of the geography allow you to do that. Kuwait, neutral, diplomatic mechanics allow the country to be in that prospect. But I need to dig in more detail about this vision. The vision is to let the economy run and led by the private sector. Is to go back to Clause 20 in Kuwait Institution, which said economy is a cooperation between the public sector and the private sector. They call it fair collaboration, fair sharing. It's a very unique clause. You don't find it anywhere else. That shows how the economy should look like. Now, at this moment, most of these economic activities, the operation, is being taken, let me put it this way, as a hostage in the hand of the government. The government operates everything. This is not the right way of running an economy. So now, according to this vision, we will start to enable the private sector to be the one responsible for the economic activities. That takes me to the pillar of what we call New Kuwait. We talked about Old Kuwait, modern Kuwait, moving to New Kuwait. The later, maybe in another talk, to Smart Kuwait. Afterward, Sustainable Kuwait. A vision is being made, articulated until 2100. The pillars of New Kuwait start with a effective public administration, a very small government, regulating government, not operating of the activities government. Meaning, I don't need a lot of employees working for the government because the government needs to be very small. And the role of the government is to regulate and monitor and make sure the activities are done properly. 2, you need a creative human capital. We cannot accept how the education is being run as we speak in the 4th Industrial Revolution. Our student graduating will not have the proper tools to be part of this 4th Industrial Revolution. So the education needs to be reformed. I don't call it a human resource, it's a human capital. So imagine the country without 1 drop of oil, you have nothing. So we are left only with a strategic geographical location and human capital. Number 3, so they are telling me to speed it up. But in this 3 minutes, you know the whole story. Now, what you need also an infrastructure, well, that's common sense. You cannot operate without a proper logistics or a proper ICT. Get me to the next one. which is the healthcare. Now, without healthcare, you cannot operate as well. As well, a sustainable and living environment. We should stop living in big, huge houses that actually exhaust the energy requirement. Building codes need to be changed. Otherwise, we will not have enough oil even to burn to produce this electricity. That gets me into my last two. The first one, and one of the most important, is the healthcare system. It's one of the important pillars. If you summarize all of these pillars, they should go into an international positioning of the country. This is, in a nutshell, the pillars of a new Kuwait. These are projects everybody heard about. Some of them are, they call it cement projects. Well, but they are needed for the coming infrastructure. You need a logistical infrastructure. You will require a proper, sustainable cities, as well as a proper healthcare infrastructure and educational infrastructure. That gets me into my last slide, which is the most important. January 2017, and this is what I'm telling you, what makes this year very special and different. The whole cabinet in this building stand in front of the Kuwaiti people telling them we are committed. This is what will make this plan a reality. Thank you.